Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Dr. Homam and my fellow friends. We are from Group 1, and in this video, we will be reviewing a book entitled 101 Creative Problem Solving Techniques, written by James M. Higgins. I am Nur Arina Bt Roshaizad in metric number 19128880, and I will be in charge on reviewing chapter 1 and chapter 2 from the book. So for chapter 1, which entitles Innovates or Evaporates, the author highlights the importance of innovation or creation to the business, whereby first he identified some problem arise in the course of business, and also he stated that one of the best way to overcome this problem is by innovating or by creating something new using the creative problem solving techniques. Before applying the creative problem solving techniques, the author highlights that it is very important for an individual to understand the 4 P's of innovation and creativity. The 4 P's are: first, the personal and group creativity; second, the process; third, the possibility; and the fourth one is product, or the outcome of the innovation and creative process. For the first P, which is the personal and group creativity, in order for you to be creative, you have to free yourself from something restricting your creativity. This also includes by practicing new habits that will improve your creativity. The individual functions within a group is to balance the dynamic of the group in order for you to improve your creativity. For the second P, which is the process, there are numerous techniques that can be used to increase the creativity of problem solving within an organization or business. This will be further explained in the upcoming chapter, and will be presented by my group mates. And the third P is the possibility. Regardless of your creative talents, however great your knowledge or skill, you will not be able to create many innovations if you are not functioning in a favorable situation. Whereby the last P, or the product is the outcome of the innovation and creative process. To be a true creative product, it must have value and not just be original. To be innovative, it must have significant value. Another interesting point in this chapter is that the author has stated that the outcome of the innovation process can be further classified into 4 types. The first type is the product innovation, the second type is the process innovation, the third type is marketing innovation, and the fourth type is management innovation. For the first type of innovation, which is the product innovation, the product innovation will result into a new product or services with enhancement as compared to the old product or services. For the second type, which is the process innovation, will result in improved process within the organization. For example, in operations, human resource management, or finance. This also focus on improving the effectiveness and efficiency of a particular process. For the third type of innovation, which is the marketing innovation, this type of innovation is related to the marketing functions of promotion or pricing and distribution, as well as to product functions other than product development, for example, packaging or advertising. And for the last type of innovation, which is the management innovation, management innovation will result to the improvement of the way how the organization is managed. After applying the creative after applying the innovation process, the manager of a particular organization will improve how he manage the his organization. Next is chapter 2. In this chapter, the author James M. Higgins had explained how the creative problem solving process will take place. The first stage of creative problem solving process is environmental analysis. At this stage, both internal and external organizational environments will be constantly and carefully monitored for signs of problems or opportunities. At this stage, the observer or the manager will gather informations about the opportunity and problems identified within the organization. Only then, we will move to the second stage, which is the problem recognition. A problem or opportunity exists uh, based on the first stage. The observer or the manager will take advantage or solving the problems, um, take advantage over the opportunity or solve the problem identified. Um, so after that, we will move on to the third stage, which is the problem identification stage. In this stage, it will involve the process of making sure that the organization's efforts will be directed towards solving the problems identified before this, rather than merely eliminating symptoms of the problems. Some question that can be asked at this stage, I provide 3 questions. For example, what happened or will happen to the organization, or who does it or will it affect? And the third question is where did it or will it have an impact to the organization? Um, After that, we moving on to the fourth stage, is the stage of making assumption. At this stage, the observer or the manager will make assumption about the condition of future factors in the problem situation. For example, what will the state of the economy if the new product is to be launched? What will happen to organization after this? Okay. After that, we will move on to the fifth stage, which is the process of generating alternative to the problems identified before. At this stage, the manager or the observer will focus on generating alternative. In this process, is that the idea will be there will be a lots of idea on the how to improve the weakness identified in the organization, or how to solve the problem. Next is the process of decision making. The process of the decision making should be based on a systematic evaluation of the alternative against the criteria established earlier. Only then, based on the alternative generated before, the manager will choose the best solution to the problems identified. After making decision, um, only then we will move on to the next stage, uh, which is once you have a clear idea of what you want to do and a plan for accomplishing it, you can take action, or and or in it, or in another word is to execute the solution uh, that have been chosen before. After applying the solution, the final stage is the evaluation or the control of the solution, so that any weakness or other opportunities or problem arise can be solved by the manager. uh, and also this process will take place over and over again, over and over, so that the manager will have the best state of his organization. So that concludes my presentation. I pass the floor to the next presenter. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Nurul Afifah Aiman binti Marzuki, metric number 1918532. So I will proceed with chapter 3 under this book, Techniques for Analyzing the Environment, Recognize and Identifying Problems. Firstly, we need to know the techniques for analyzing the environment. Why we need to analyze the environment? This is because so that we can focus on standard control processes and environmental scanning. There are 4 approaches under these techniques, which are comparison against others, monitor weak signals, hire futurists and other consultants, and also opportunity searches. Next, we go to the technique for recognizing problems. Before we go to the techniques for recognizing problems, we need to develop some skills in order to face the technique. The skills are analytical skills, self-confidence, creative problem-solving skills, ability to deal with ambiguity, strong interpersonal skills, and also the ability to proactive in transaction. If you have this skill, it will be smoother for you to apply the techniques in your daily life. Okay, let's go to the technique for recognizing problem. There are 9 techniques for recognizing problem, and among the 9 techniques, I suggest the role playing, because under this role playing, it was like when we put ourselves in other people's shoes. For example, when I see a problem in my sister, where my sister don't know how to cook, then I will put myself into her shoes. I will feel like, what will I do if I don't know how to cook? Then I will go to the YouTube and I will search for tutorial how to cook, and I will learn from there slowly, and lastly I will know how to cook easily. That is how we apply role playing in our daily life. After we have recognized the problem, we need to identify the problem. What is the difference between recognize and identify? Recognize is just when you know the problem at the surface, but identify is when you look deeper into the problem. Okay, there are 12 techniques for identifying problem, which are bounce it off someone else, consensus building, draw a picture of the problem, experience it, fishbone diagram, king of the mountain, redefining a problem or opportunity, rewrite objective in different ways, squeeze and stretch, what do you know, what pattern exists, and why diagram. Among these techniques, the most favorite and frequently techniques that I use in my daily life is fishbone diagram, where under fishbone diagram, it is easy for me to imagine the picture of fishbone, and I will put my problem at the face of the fish, and the branches of the fishbone will be my extract, from my problem, so that it will be easy for me to confront the problem one by one. Now, let's go to the topic 4 under this book, which is about individual techniques for generating alternative. Okay, there are more than 35 techniques under this topic, but I will only explain 3 of them, which are analogies, metaphors, and association. Let's go one by one. The first one is the analogies. Analogies is a comparison of 2 things that are essentially dissimilar but are shown through the analogy to have some similarity. The first picture is praying mantis and the second one is a tractor. Those are 2 different pictures. However, there are something similar that link between each other, which is the structure of the hand of the praying mantis has been applied to build the tractor, where the hand of the tractor help people to carry heavy loads to build something, for example, house and other structure. And the second one is the metaphors. Metaphor is a figure of speech in which 2 different universes of those are linked by some point of similarity. All metaphors are analogies, but not all analogies are metaphors. So I give an example, the cold wind cuts to the bone. And the second one is the sergeant barks an order. As you can see in the sentence, how can sergeant barks, as bark is frequently used for dogs, but we all know that sergeant always give will always give any order in shouting or higher voice. So they have some similarity with the dog, where when the dog bark, they will raise their voice. So that's why they put in a sentence, The surgeon barks an order. Lastly, association. Association involves making a mental connection between two objects or ideas. There are three aspects under this association, which is contiguity, similarity, and contrast. The first one is contiguity. Contiguity is nearness. For example, I give you a picture of a child. So, whenever we think about a child, it will remind us about our previous school, where during school, we use chalk. The teacher always use chalk in teaching. Okay. The second one is similarity. Similarity is one object or do will remind you of a similar object or do. For example, butterfly and fairy godmother. What is the similarity between these two pictures? Yes, they have wings, which help them to fly. That is the similarity that these two pictures have. And the last one is contrast. Which is dissimilarities and opposite. And I give you an example. The opposite of black is white. The opposite of girl is boy, and so on.
Hey guys, my name is Nur Suhaili, metric number 1910796, and today I will cover chapter 4, which is about group technique for generating alternative. So, at first, the writer shows us the advantages of group decision making. The first one is it will give or it will provide a better solution in making a decision. It also leads to better understanding because each participant in group decision making will help each other to understand the problem clearly. It also will ensure a broader shared effort. And last but not least, the advantages of group decision making is the propensity to take risk is balanced because there are more people will discuss about the risk in making a decision. So the decision will be balanced in matters of risk. As we know, everything have the good side and also the bad side. So the bad side or the disadvantages of group decision making can be divided into four, which is there is a pressure to confirm in making decision. The second one is group decision making will require more time in making decision compared to individual decision making. It will also exist individual nomination. So in group decision making, there will be one individual that will nominate the group decision, and the last one is the ambiguous responsibility. Ambiguous responsibility situation will occur when in a group there is more than 5 members in a group decision making, so there will be some problem in dividing responsibility or dividing job to each member. So from the advantages and disadvantages that have been shown by the writer, we can see that the advantages side is more bigger compared to the disadvantages side. So in this topic, the writer shows us the example of the group process for generating alternative technique. So example of group process for generating alternative technique is such as brainstorming, Philip 66, Lotus Blossom, Crawford Sleep Method, Lion's Den, Nominal Group Technique, NHK Method, Gallery Method, and last but not least, it is storyboarding. There is also other technique that is included by the writer in this chapter. Among this type of group process, there are several processes that became my favorite, which are Lotus Blossom and brainstorming. Other than that, there are several processes that I am interested to try it, although it is my first time knowing about it. There are nominal group technique and also storyboarding. So the first technique is brainstorming. So brainstorming was created by Alex Osborne, which the intention is to increase the quality and the quantity of his company. It is known as brainstorming because of the participant brain in this technique were used to storm a problem. This technique will involve to 6 to 12 people per session. So there are several important rules in if you want to use this technique. So the first one is there is no judgments about others' idea. There is no right idea or no wrong idea. Second one is all ideas are welcome. So all the participants will give their idea. And last but not least, the idea may be combined, refined, and piggyback. So the advantages of this step, it will give involvement, commitment, and loyalty the participant towards the group. It also will build self-esteem because people are. So my second favorite technique is lotus blossom. So lotus blossom is also known as Matsuma Yasuo method. So in this method, it will based on the diagram of lotus blossom. So the petal of lotus blossom will cluster around a center core of the lotus blossom and spread out from that point. So by creating windows, similarly like in the spreadsheet, in the next slide, the portion of idea can be sectioned off in such way that the central theme is used to derive idea and in surroundings windows. So this type of technique is widely used in Japan in generating idea for existing technologies or product in order to making it more advantageous for people. So another group decision making technique that interested for me is nominal group technique. So nominal group technique is a structured small process for generating idea. It is a type of technique in order to diminish the impact of dominant person in a group decision making. So this type is mostly used to identify the critical variables in a specific problem and also identify the key elements of problem in order to establish priority with regard to a problem to be addressed. So there are 4 steps in using a nominal group technique. So the first step is generation of idea. The second one will be recording of the idea. The third one is clarification of idea, and the last one is voting on the ideas. So last but not least is a storyboarding. So storyboarding is created by the Walt Disney with his staff in 1928. It is a structured exercise based on brainstorming. This type of a technique is extremely flexible and can be modified, and it is also useful for solving complicated problem. It was introduced by Walt Disney in order to achieve a full animation in cartoon features. As we know, Walt Disney is really well known with many famous cartoons until now. So this is an example of a storyboard that have been used by the cartoonists, and also we also can use this type of diagram in order to solve any problem. So this is example of the storyboard.
My name is Nur Hizwani. So what we have done previously is we have learned about criteria selected, then we have compared various alternatives to these criteria. Now is the time to make final choice. I will be discussing on chapter 6 and chapter 7 of this book and be making conclusion. Chapter 6, entitled Choosing Among Alternative, explains 2 techniques designed specifically to compare criteria to alternatives. Firstly, screening metrics for ideas developed by Simon Majaro, an innovation consultant, is a 9-cell screening matrix that can be helpful at a final meeting. Ideas are placed on the grid based on the subjective ratings for its attractiveness and compatibility. Ideas that fall in the shaded cells are the best ideas to move forward to the next stage of development. The second is dot voting. It is a simple and straightforward way to narrow down our alternative to a set of ideas. In dot voting, each individual in a group is given a number of tokens, which we call as dots, that can be each assigned to an alternative. So this is an example of dot voting process where we can directly see the outcomes by just a single look at the idea. that receive the most majority of the dots. After we have our ideas generated and finalized, next is to implement it. The question is, how are we going to implement the ideas? In chapter 6, there is a chapter that is entitled Implementation, which the author James Higgins examines creative techniques designed to help the manager within the context of creativity and selling processes among the organization. So one of the techniques to be creative with our ideas is by creating a how-how diagram where a detailed plan can be made by asking a simple how. So this is an example of how-how diagram. It is an excellent technique for forcing problem solvers to think about the details of the implementation process. Secondly, for better results in the implementation, be a warrior when selling our idea. Roger von Ocher, noted creativity consultant and author, suggests that there are 4 distinct roles that must be filled during the creativity or innovation process: explorer, artist, judge, and warrior. So when you are searching for new information, be an explorer. When you are turning your resources into new ideas, be an artist. When you are evaluating the merits of an idea, be a judge. When you're carrying your idea into action, be a warrior. Hence, we must balance between all the character to implement the idea. So that is all discussed in chapter 6. In the last chapter of the book, a very brief chapter 7, entitled Using the Techniques, the author James Higgins discussed on the use of intuition and the use of techniques described in this book. He advised that intuition can and should be used in all stages of creative problem solving, in addition to using our own rationality. So while in the process of using the techniques provided in this book, we must make full planning and integrate them into our efforts. Always be committed in using the techniques, he added. So with that, we are finally close to the end of our presentation for the purpose of this book review assessment. Throughout the whole presentations, we have reviewed the content of the book entitled 101 Creative Problem Solving by James Higgins, focusing on each chapter briefly. So to recap back the whole process of reaching to a creative solution, as discussed earlier, the first one is environmental analysis. Next, problem recognition, problem identification, making assumptions, individual base of alternative generation, group base of alternative generation, making choices, implementation, and lastly, control. In conclusion, this book has been written with full effort and deep analysis by the author. The point and structure is organized very clearly and based on its steps, where readers are able to determine the level of creativity while going through the processes. The author did achieve his goal of describing the basic of creative problem-solving model and the 101 techniques in unleashing individual and group activity to help businesses to manage their organization. It is also very easy to be understood even by a college student like us. Hence, we believe that business organizations is the most targeted audience of this book and will receive the most benefits out of this useful book. We believe that book has no flaws. With a total of 223 pages of full content, the author did left nothing out. He had discussed everything, though just briefly. At least we get to have an idea of what to do next by doing an extra research on the subject matter. So the best thing that we like the most about this book is that it is very structurally organized and easy to be read. The table of content in itself is very comprehensive and complete for speed reference. Hence, we would really recommend this book to our friends and also use it